Georgia passed a law transferring probation services to the counties, and that allowed them to privatize their probation services for misdemeanor crimes, put behind bars for being poor. That's how a group of local attorneys describe arrest warrants requested by Sentinel Offender Services for misdemeanor offenders.
We're all basically low income. We live paycheck to paycheck. My husband and I, we've been married 32 years. We have 2 daughters, and that's my younger daughter when she was probably about 5. In 2006, I was pulled over for DUI. I was sentenced to Columbia County. I sat there for 8 months. Sentinel put me on 2 years probation. 2008, my probation was over. I paid my fine. In 2012, Labor Day weekend, a police officer pulled in. I was walking my dogs around the front of that trailer. The officer come in here and he got out and he asked me to stop. And then he come back saying there was a hold on me in Columbia County. And I said, for what? And he said, violation of probation. I'd been off probation for 4 years. I said, no, officer, I believe you're making a really bad mistake. He says, well, I still have to take her in. And that's when I sat in Columbia County for 20 days. Judge Danny Craig asked Sentinel, why is she still on probation when she was off 4 years ago? And they had took it upon themselves to reinstate me without a judge's order or anything, back on probation, just to get the monthly fee. He sent me home. I was off of it. But my husband still had to pay $156. That makes you scared. You wonder about going in a grocery store or just out walking your dogs. A police officer might come by and arrest you again. I do realize I shouldn't have been drinking and driving and that I did make a mistake and I did pay for it. But they want to drag it out just for their profit. And there's so many out there that they're using like that.
A disabled Augusta veteran locked up because he couldn't pay a fee
Ticket that turned into jail time and blamed Sentinel Offender Services. 3 people currently jailed in Richmond County are joining the legal fight against Sentinel. About 10,000 Richmond County residents with outstanding arrest warrants taken out by Sentinel.
When I walked out of the courtroom after that 20 days, a lawyer was waiting outside for me. And he said, you know, they were holding you illegally, and I'd like to really talk to you.
So here we are talking about a lady who stayed in the Columbia County Jail now for about 20 days at $50 a day. It cost the county $1,000. It cost the lady her freedom so Sentinel could collect $157. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
Sentinel is a big company, but it's family held. The owner of the company is Bob Contestable. His son, Mark, is largely responsible for running the company's for-profit probation business out of Georgia. Many company officials are quite eager to blame the courts. The reality is that they have an enormous amount of discretion in their day-to-day interactions with the people that they supervise, and many of the decisions they make are not done in consultation with the courts at all. There's a lot of power that the courts delegate, sometimes improperly, to these companies, but the companies have a very direct responsibility for all of this as well.
Wave for the camera. She just got married, she just got back from the Caribbean. So I must pay them okay, because they can do that, right? I'm Dale Allen, I'm Chief Probation Officer of Athens Clarke County Probation Services. Overall, I've been in the criminal justice field for over 35 years. One of the contributing factors to us deciding to transition from private probation to governmental probation was a request of the judges for more accountability, more transparency. We do believe we're 100% transparent. All my records are open, my fines, my fees, where the money goes, my budget is open record. I don't feel any pressure whatsoever to collect a certain amount of fees. We are not here to make a profit. The concept of locking people up for money goes against every instinct I have as a manager of probation. I actually call it the economics of doing the right thing. If they cannot pay, legitimately cannot pay, then it's to our community's best interest, it's to my government's best interest to work with them any way you can, short of incarcerating.
I think that most people like to imagine that in 21st century America there's no such thing as a debtor's prison anymore. That's not true. There are people in courts all across this country losing their freedom not just because they're not able to come up with the money to pay down a fine, but because they're falling behind on payments to a private for-profit company that's been allowed to collect fees from them.
JCS, Sentinel, their interest is to make money, not to serve the judicial system.
Without question, the most urgent need is for laws at the state level that impose strict oversight and accountability on these companies and the situations where they can and should not be able to collect fines from people.
They don't show like they care about people. Even if you're trying, you know, to do what's right. We have to go by the laws, and I feel they ought to too. Who do they have to answer to for doing wrong?